one of the things that we want these episodes to do with this series of stories from the church is to identify what success looks like. Like, what has success look like specifically with running Pure Desire groups, with having this healing ministry in your church? So what are some of the biggest successes you guys have had with running groups?
Well, we probably could write a book about some of them, but
Do
we
it.
also had,
Do
We'll
it.
help you publish
Yeah,
it.
we will
Yeah.
publish it.
no, there's just some really great stories. One I think about is a man who came to us. Actually, he came to the 2018 Pure Desire University that was here. So Nick, you would have been here. And he found some really amazing answers after 30 years of struggle and secrecy and brokenness and a marriage that was barely hanging together and children that were frazzled. And when we started ministering to him, it was his former church leaders that came to us and exposed him to us and told us about how they're not sure that he even knows who Jesus is. And he got so much rejection from them. But to see who he has become gets emotional for me, because that's why we do what we do. Their marriage has been healed. They're both leading groups, multiple groups. His recovery is astounding. That which used to be isn't happening anymore, and they have been healing. And his son was at church 2 weeks ago. I was so honored to be able to meet him because there had been such brokenness in that family. So yeah, we have lots of those stories. We also have lots of stories of brokenness that's still in the process, but we do have many wonderful things that are happening. And I think the one back in 2015, when we started doing this ministry, I was asked to speak in a plain community. I'll refer to them as a plain community. We have several different groups of very religious, plain, conservative, horse and buggy, different groups. And I was asked to speak into those groups about sexual addiction, pornography, substance abuse, and I actually got to speak to 300-400 people several times. And there were times there were police officers there. There were times that they asked the DA to speak, and I'm not talking about pornography. He said, Pastor Ken will talk about that. So I had that avenue of coming into those large environments. Of course, I was suspect as to who I was. But now 8 years later, many of their young people are part of our church. We baptized over 50 of them in the last 2 years.
Wow.
And in that group now, we're running Conquer groups and Living Free groups. That group meets several times a week for worship, and we have designate that as a ministry that has a pastor ministering to them. And so that's opened up a whole new avenue in this area of revival. And it started through this ministry of purity. The fathers had met one time and they asked me, how do we talk to our kids about sex? And I gave them some instructions. They said, why don't you teach us? So we had 5 sessions that we met together, and I was able to teach them. They brought their teenage sons with them.
Wow.
And I just remember one of the fathers of 6 children, he told me, he said, I learned more about sex from you, and this is on a teenage level, than I've ever known. And so those doors have just continued to open. And I believe it's a holy anointing. I handle that one very carefully and humbly. But it's been out of that many doors have been opened. Matt and I do a lot of counseling or coaching for guys who sneak in here who aren't quite sure that they're welcome, but they are. Last week, I think I had 3 or 4 different ones from that community who wanted to know what the next step for healing is. And so, we see their marriages being healed. So it's like 2 cultural groups here that we're trying to minister to, but we're all human beings and we all need grace. And we just have many of those kinds of stories that are just really thrilling. The other highlight I wanted to mention at this point was the successes that we're using the material with our youth. So once they get into 9th grade, they have the privilege of watching Conquer series or Sexual Integrity 101. We offer that to the girls. So we are trying to bring the subject to the front at an early age with our youth. Some successes, we are currently running new groups every 3 months or so, about 3 times a year. We will start a new group of Conquer series or Sexual Integrity 101. So currently we probably since we started this, we've had 10 to 15 groups going year round. So there's always new ones starting and old ones coming and going and moving to the next level. We're trying the new material. We're testing. Yeah, just a lot of great things happening. I don't know, Marcy or Matt, have anything to add to that?
I'll just chime in. I haven't mentioned the Unraveled groups, and so that is, I think we've offered, this is our third one that we're on. So the last couple of years, that's been a newer group. I think it's one that's harder for people to get their minds around, that women struggle too. And so I have an amazing leader in that group who really understands addiction and is so passionate about it. So that has been just a huge success to me to be able to offer that group too. And when I have people reaching out for Unraveled, I mean, you might be able to find some Betrayal and Beyond groups around locally, but Unraveled is hard to come by. And so I'm really excited that we can offer that and that we have a very passionate, very dedicated leaders for that group.
I might also add another success has been our passion for sexual addiction healing. We've also been concerned about substance abuse. And so we have started Celebrate Recovery as a community event here. We now have 3 churches that are working with us. We host it, but there's 3 other churches supporting that. So we are truly a place for healing. And we say it's whatever the hurts you have, come, we will bring you to Jesus. We will show you the way. And we have lots of many wonderful people that are involved. Like we've been referring to our counseling ministry, and we do have 10 counselors, but we also refer people to you guys at Pure Desire. We also refer people to you for groups because we cannot accommodate groups in the middle of the night or different time zones.
Yeah.
And so we can't do that, but I've had many great stories of people who are in group online. So we do promote you on the West Coast.
Yeah, I really appreciate the story of what's been happening in those plain communities and the story you told there, Ken, because I think what I would echo, what I've seen at a lot of churches when they begin running groups and make it known like, hey, we're a safe place to deal with this issue, to deal with broken sexuality and betrayal and addiction. There are people, whether it's what you described as a plain community or men or women who are just disenfranchised on church or young people that this message in particular resonates with them because it helps them see, I think this church actually has something for me. That if I walk in and reveal my broken story, they're not going to, turn away in horror. They're not going to give me some, holiness condemnation lesson, but they're going to embrace me and care for me. And so the way you described that people are kind of sliding in to try to ask confidentially, like, can I be in group? I've just seen that happen a lot, and it's an environment of grace that I think people are drawn to, even if they're maybe not yet drawn to the church. And so it becomes I think an incredible avenue that churches can reach people that maybe right now they're